刚刚跟各位谈到制造管理跟这个设计管理一个非常关键的不同，一个是单维，一个是多维，一个是线性，一个是非线性。那么也希望各位同学可以真正的透过这个简化过的表去了解这种非线性、四面八方的思考，再加上多层次的思考，那么中间能够贯穿的这个力量，就是这种管理新的时代的这个设计管理的一个很关键。其实这条黑线，不管你这个圈圈有几层，简单的也许是2层，复杂的也许是10几层。那么这种2层也好，10几层也好的这种多 dimension 的这个思考的模式，那能够把它串接起来，大概是我们现在所面临到的一个设计所必须要面对的东西哈。那我在跟各位同学在聊，刚刚请各位同学思考的时候，为什么我要每一位同学都问呢？我最主要就是想要了解各位同学在谈一个问题的时候，你能够掌握到的那个重点是到什么位置，以便能够让我在讲课的时候能够把它调整得更清楚等等啊。接下来就是这一位叫做 Joseph Pine， 他是一位作家。那他这个影片跟我们分享的是 What do consumers really want？ 什么是消费者真正需要的东西？这个题目呢，其实说起来很简单，真正要认识的时候有点复杂。我试着在这个现在是10点半，大概用1个多钟头的时间跟各位把这个问题试着谈清楚。
I'm going to talk about a very fundamental change that is going on in the very fabric of the modern economy. And to talk about that, I'm going to go back to the beginning. Because in the beginning were commodities. Commodities are things that you grow in the ground, raise in the ground, or pull out of the ground. Basically animal, mineral, vegetable. And then you extract them out of the ground and sell them on the open marketplace. Commodities were the basis of the agrarian economy that lasted for millennia. But then along came the Industrial Revolution. And then goods became the predominant economic offering, where we use commodities as the raw material to be able to make or manufacture goods. So we moved from an agrarian economy to an industrial economy. But what then happened over the last 50 or 60 years is that goods have become commoditized. Commoditized where they're treated like a commodity, where people don't care who makes them. They just care about 3 things and 3 things only: price, price, and price. Now, there's an antidote to commoditization, and that is customization. My first book was called Mass Customization, and it came up a couple of times yesterday. And how I discovered this progression of economic value was realizing that customizing a good automatically turned it into a service, because it was done just for a particular person, because it wasn't inventoried, it was delivered on demand.
他讲到这里，我们把这张表稍微仔细的看一下。他的意思就是说，在经济的开始的时候，它所有的东西都是叫做货物啊 ，commodity。那我们这边翻译好像叫做货品、货物。那这个货物呢，就是从土地上长出来的东西，不管是矿物啦、植物啦、动物啊等，这些都可以叫做 commodity。commodity 的东西呢，一开始如果说我的这个我有猪，你没有猪，这个还是有稀有化的问题。但是 commodity 基本上比较公平，大家都有。那么从 commodity 这样子的一些货物呢，开始有人去做生产。那么这种生产，简单的来说，就是比如说你把这个稻米生产出来，变成这个稻米的饼。那个就是一个 goods， 它就是变成稻米做起来的，不管是米果啦，什么那些稻米的饼。那么这些东西，如果说是变成稻米的饼，很多人做的时候，比如说蛋糕很多人做的时候，你就会变成蛋糕也变成是一种 commodity， 它也就是一种非常普通的货物。 所以他把它称为是 commoditization。这个意思就是说变成货物化了，它本来是一个商品的，这个商品呢就变成货物化。货物化的一个最大的一个不同呢，就是说没有人 care 说这个是谁做的，只要是蛋糕好吃应该就可以，所以变成这个地方，它从 commodity 因为有人制造，那它就变成一种货物，那这个货变成商品，商品变多了以后，很多人做了以后，它又会回到变成这个货物化。那货物化它就变成这里的竞争呢，基本上都是价格的竞争，这里的竞争呢还有一些品牌的竞争，所以只要很多人抢，那你就当场一定会跳进来这里，除非你的品牌非常强，变成离开他不是认识这个叫做蛋糕，他认识这个叫做某某牌子，所以那样子的一个东西，可能各位同学还没有真正做过很多这方面的这个研究，所以不是很清楚。我们就利用这张表把它讲清楚一点。那但是如果这边很多人竞争的时候，除了你说那不然我就回去做价格竞争以外，你还有一种方法，就是再增加一种，它这里叫做 customization， 就是既然大家都做蛋糕，那我就来做一种叫做客制化的蛋糕。那什么叫做客制化的蛋糕呢？它就开始变成是服务了，所以变成说你可以打电话来订你的蛋糕，那个会变成是一种特别的服务。那这个服务本身呢，就会从commodity 变成 goods 变成 service。那刚刚他在讲的是这样的东西，但是 service 会不会又回来变成 commodity 呢？它也会，我们来看一下。
To that individual person. So we moved from an industrial economy to a service-based economy. But over the past 10 or 20 years, what's happened is that services are being commoditized as well. Long-distance telephone service sold on price.
所以同样的服务呢，如果有很多人竞争，它也会变成就是价格竞争。所以像长途电话，它就是一个最好的例子啊。所以
fast food restaurants with all their value pricing, and even the internet is commoditizing not just goods but services as well. What that means is that it's time to move to a new level of economic value. Time to go beyond the goods and the services. And using the same heuristic, what happens when you customize a service? What happens when you design a service that is so appropriate for a particular person?
所以刚刚我们看到 commodity 变成 goods 变成 service， 但是很多人跟你竞争以后，也就是我们在这个书上面看到过的所谓的红海的竞争，那个红海策略就是很多人做，那你就是变成价格竞争，所以那个时候你要开始跳开。所以如果你是生产 goods， 你就开始客制化，让它变成是一种特殊的服务。如果你是生产服务，很多人跟你做一样的服务，那你就要变成客制化这个服务，再把它向上拉一层。那个是什么呢？他现在正在解释。
Design a service that is so appropriate for a particular person. That's exactly what they need at this moment in time. Then you can't help but make them go wow. You can't help but turn it into a memorable event. You can't help but turn it into an experience. So we're shifting to an experience economy where experiences.
所以这个地方就是说，当你是 goods， 很多人竞争的时候，有的人被迫要转到又变成 commodity。当你是 service 的时候，有的人呢又变成是说它是变成 commoditization 以后，变成大众化以后，它又变成普通的 goods， 它也没有什么特殊的服务可言。所以这个时候它又要再客制化。那它这个时候的客制化呢就更难，它变成客制一种经验，客制一种体验。那这种客制体验呢，它就是一种非常特别的东西。
Can't help but turn it into an experience. So we're shifting to an experience economy where experiences are becoming.
这里面你可以看这个字，这个字，这个字，这个字。这个字呢是 extract， 就是说从地上把这个东西，这个作物把它采收，这个是需要去制造，所以它就变成是 make。这个呢是 deliver， 所以所有的这个东西它必须要去能够把它 deliver， 你的服务才会到人家的位置上。但是 客制化服务的时候，它就变成是一个舞台，一个 stage。这个里头对各位也许有一点点难，不过我想各位可能把这几个简单的图案呢，还没有完全懂的时候，可以把它记起来。那我们等一下讨论的时候，可以慢慢提出您的问题。
The predominant economic offering. Now, most places that I talk to, when I talk about experience, I talk about Disney, right, the world's premier experience stager. I talk about theme restaurants and experiential retail and boutique hotels in Las Vegas, the experience capital of the world. But here, when you think about experiences, think about Thomas Dolby and his group playing music. Think about meaningful places. Think about drinking wine, about a journey to the clock of the long now. Those are all experiences. Think about TED itself, the experience capital in the world of conferences. All of these are experiences. Now, over the last several years, I've spent a lot of time in Europe, and particularly in the Netherlands. And whenever I talk about the experience economy there, I'm always greeted at the end with one particular question, almost invariably. And the question isn't really so much a question as an accusation. And the Dutch, when they usually put it, it always starts with the same two words. You know the words I mean? You Americans. I say, you Americans, you like your fantasy environments, your fake, your Disneyland experiences. I say, we Dutch, we like real, natural, authentic experiences. So much so as that happened is that I've developed a fairly practiced response, which is, I point out that first of all, you have to understand that there is no.
话很重要啊。他说，迪士尼是做出来假的，我们喜欢去自然的公园，那个是真的啊。那他在这里面讲的一个东西就是说，其实什么是假的，什么是真的。等一下要讲的，他讲的有一点点复杂，所以你可能要很仔细听。简单的说，他回答荷兰人说，你也是假的。你哪一块地不是填出来的？那填出来种花变成真的，那我去弄很多米老鼠变成是假的，这个有点想不通。那到底是什么意思？其实这里面他在讲的一个很重要的概念，就是说，当你提供一个体验的时候，那个体验只要被感受深刻，管它是真的还是假的，都是真的，因为那个体验是真的。如果你看到一个电影，你明明知道那是一个假的故事，可是你如此的感动，你会感动到觉得是真的，不然你为什么要掉眼泪呢？你为什么要笑呢？你的笑跟你的眼泪都告诉你自己，那是真的。所以它是故事是假的，感情是真的。最重要的在体验经济里面的就是你要提供一个真实的感情。而不是一种真实的东西，可是是假的感情。我有没有讲清楚 ？GM 就是一个真实的东西，它是真的车子，可是是一个假的感情，到最后它就失败了。那是一个真东西假感情，跟假东西真感情，那个是整个体验经济里面非常重要的一种理解。
There's no such thing as an inauthentic experience. Why? Because the experience happens inside of us. It's our reaction to the events that are staged in front of us. So as long as we are in any sense authentic human beings, then every experience we have is authentic. Now there may be more or less natural or artificial stimuli for the experience, but even that is a matter of degree, not kind. And there's no such thing as 100% natural experience. Even if you go for a walk in the proverbial woods, there is a company that manufactured the car that delivered you to the edge of the woods. There's a company that manufactured the shoes that you have to protect yourself from the ground of the woods. There's a company that provides the cell phone service you have in case you get lost in the woods. Right? All of those are man-made, artificiality brought into the woods by you and by the very nature of being there. And then I always finish off by talking about the thing that amazes me the most about this question, particularly coming from the Dutch, is that the Netherlands is every bit as manufactured as Disneyland. And the Dutch, they always go, and they realize I'm right. There isn't a square meter of ground in the entire country that hasn't been reclaimed from the sea or otherwise moved, modified, and manicured to look as if it had always been there. It's the only place you ever go for a walk in the woods and all the trees are lined up in rows. But nonetheless, not just the Dutch, but everyone has this desire for the authentic. And authenticity
这个字把它记住，就是真实感。体验经济就是你从服务经济再上一层，你要去定制什么呢？你要去定制的东西，就是要让你的消费者感受到一种真实感。那种真实感是你设计出来的，所以它理论上它是假的。但是它提供给他的那种经验是如此的真实，真实的开心，真实的悲伤都是真实，所以那个就会变成他们决定在这里购买。这就是为什么有人会排很长的队去买一个这个剧院的票、电影的票等等这样子的一个意思。真实
is therefore becoming the new consumer sensibility, the buying criteria by which consumers are choosing who they're going to buy from and what they are going to buy, becoming the basis of the economy. In fact, you can look at how each of these economies developed, that each one has their own business imperative matched with the consumer sensibility. With the agrarian economy, we're supplying commodities. It's about supplying availability, getting the commodities to market. With the industrial economy, it is about controlling costs, getting the costs down as low as possible so we can offer them to the masses. With the service economy, it is about improving quality. The whole quality movement has risen with the service economy over the past 20 to 30 years. And now, with the experience economy,
这一章也是一个重要的表，虽然有点模糊，但是它很重要，就是告诉我们，虽然各位也许上过经济学的课等等，但是很重要的就是你必须要去用一个很简单的概念去了解。当我们你不能讲说啊，现在我们已经不是这个农业时代，所以没有 commodity， 不是。当很多这些东西变成好像是随时都可以拿得到的时候，它就是 commodity。那这种 commodity， 如果你开始去能够加工，因为你的加工的技术能够控制 cost， 那它就变成是 goods。当你能够在 improve 它的 quality 的时候，你变成一种 service， 因为从这里到这里你要去特别去定做这件事情，所以它变成一种服务。那这个服务再往上走一层的时候，就变成是一个 render 就是一种我们画透视图叫做 render 这个真实感，就是去形塑那个真实感。那种真实感的形塑是未来在创意上面，在做设计上面最重要的一个关键，是在这个位置。
It's about rendering authenticity. Rendering authenticity, and that's the key word is rendering. Right, rendering, because you have to get your consumers, as business people, to perceive your offerings as authentic. Because there is a basic paradox. No one can have an inauthentic experience, but no business can supply one. Because all businesses are man-made objects. All business is involved with money. All business is a matter of using machinery. And all those things make something inauthentic. So how do you render authenticity is the question. Right? Rendering authenticity. When you think about that, let me go back to what Lionel Trilling, in his seminal book on authenticity, Sincerity and Authenticity, came out in 1960, points to as the seminal point at which authenticity entered the lexicon, if you will. And that is, to no surprise, in Shakespeare and in his play Hamlet. And there's one point in his play Hamlet where the most fake of all the characters in Hamlet, Polonius, says something profoundly real. At the end of a laundry list of advice he's giving to his son Laertes, he says this, "And this above all, to thine own self be true. And it doth follow as night the day, that thou canst not then be false to any man." And those three verses are the core of authenticity. There are two dimensions to authenticity. One,
莎士比亚的这个哈姆雷特剧里头这三句话，可以解释如何去在做创意跟做设计的时候去把握这件事情。那第一个就是忠于自我，非常自我导向，这个是第一个。
being true to yourself, which is very self-directed. 2 is other-directed, being what you say you are to others. And I don't know about you, but whenever I encounter 2 dimensions, I immediately go, 2 by 2. Right? Anybody else like that? No? Well, if you think about that, you do, in fact, get a 2 by 2. Where on one dimension, it's a matter of being true to yourself. As businesses, are the economic offerings you are providing, are they true to themselves? And the other dimension is, are they what they say they are to others? If not, you have is not true to itself and is not what it says it is, right? Yielding a 2 by 2 matrix. And of course, if you are both true to yourself and are what you say you are, then you're real. The opposite, of course, is fake. Right now, there is value for fake. There will always be companies around to supply the fake because there will always be desire for the fake. In fact, there's a general rule. If you don't like it, it's fake. If you do like it, it's faux. Now, the other 2 sides of the coin are being a real fake, is what it says it is but is not true to itself, or being a fake real, is true to itself but not what it says it is. You can think about those 2 contrasts. Both of these are better than being fake, not quite as good as being real. You can contrast them by thinking about Universal City Walk versus Disney World, right, or Disneyland. Universal City Walk is a real fake. In fact, we got this very term from Ada Louise Huxtable's book, The Unreal America. Wonderful book where she talks about Universal City Walk as, she decries the fake, but she says at least that's a real fake, right? Because you can see behind the facade, right? It is what it said it is. It's Universal Studio. It's in the city of Los Angeles. You're going to walk a lot, right? You don't tend to walk a lot in Los Angeles. Well, here's a place where you are going to walk a lot outside in this city, right? But is it really true to itself? Right? Is it really in the city? Is it, you can see behind all of it and see what is going on in the facades of it, so she calls it a real fake. Disney World, on the other hand, is a fake real, or a fake reality. Right? It's not what it says it is. It's not really the Magic Kingdom. But it is, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, sorry. We won't talk about Santa Claus then. But Disney World is wonderfully true to itself, right? Just wonderfully true to itself. When you are there, you are just immersed in this wonderful environment. So it's a fake real. Now, the easiest way to fall down in this and not be real, right? The easiest way not to be true to yourself is not to understand your heritage and thereby repudiate that heritage, right? The key of being true to yourself is knowing who you are as a business, knowing where your heritage is, what you have done in the past, and what you have done in the past limits what you can do, what you can get away with, essentially, in the future. So you have to understand that past. Think about Disney again. Disney, 10 or 15 years ago, right? The company that is probably best known for family values out there, Disney bought the ABC network. ABC network, affectionately known in the trade as the TNA network. Right? That's not too much jargon, is it? Right? The TNA network. Then it bought Miramax, known for its NC-17 fare. And all of a sudden, families everywhere couldn't really trust what they were getting from Disney. It was no longer true to its heritage, no longer true to Walt Disney. That's one of the reasons why they're having such trouble today, and why Roy Disney is out to get Michael Eisner, because it is no longer true to itself. So understand what your past limits what you can do in the future. When it comes to being what you say you are, the easiest mistake that companies make is that they advertise things that they are not. Right? That's when you're perceived as fake, as a phony company, advertising things that you're not. Think about any hotel, any airline, any hospital. Right? If you could check into the ads, you'd have a great experience.
他这里讲到一个是说，像航空公司或者是旅馆或者是医院，如果你可以跟着他广告上做的那个地方，直接对着广告就 check in， 那你大概就会很舒服，因为他在广告里做的是一个让你非常舒服的地方。所以如果你能够去 check in 进去那个广告，如果他正在拍一个广告片，然后你觉得说哇这个地方真的不错，你就直接 check in 就是进去那个广告， 那当然很舒服。可是通常你要 check in 进去一个真实的世界，那个真实的世界跟它广告不同，所以他才会讲说，所以那个就是假的，那个他提供给你的经验，并不是广告给你的经验，所以。
But unfortunately, you have to experience the actual hotel, airline, and hospital, and then you have that disconnect. Then you have that perception that you are phony. So the number one thing to do when it comes to being what you say you are is to provide places for people to experience who you are. For people to experience who you are. Right? It's not advertising does it.
所以接下来一段他讲的是很重要的东西，就是说。你如果要让人家感受到你的真实感，不是你要去先在一个广告里说我是这样，而是你直接提供那个经验，那个服务，让人家体验到说，哦，这种服务就是这样，所以他开始跟这个服务所产生的经验产生一种好感的连结。他开始在这里解释这个 Starbucks。Companies
like Starbucks. That's why you have companies like Starbucks, right, that doesn't advertise at all. They said, you want to know who we are, you have to come experience us. And think about the economic value they have provided by that experience. Right? Coffee at its core is what? Right? It's beans. Right? It's coffee beans. You know how much coffee is worth when treated as a commodity, as a bean? 2 or 3 cents per cup. That's what coffee is worth. But grind it, roast it, package it, put it on a grocery store shelf, and now it'll cost 5, 10, 15 cents when you treat it as a good. Take that same good and perform the service of actually brewing it for a customer in a corner diner, in a bodega, a kiosk somewhere, you get 50 cents, maybe $1 per cup of coffee. But surround the brewing of that coffee with the ambiance of a Starbucks, with the authentic theater that goes inside of there. And now, because of that authentic experience, you can charge $2, $3, $4, $5 for a cup of coffee. So authenticity is becoming the new consumer sensibility. Let me summarize it for the business people in the audience with 3 rules, 3 basic rules. 1, don't say you're authentic.
说自己是真的这件事情是没有用的，因为那是体验的部分。你什么都不说，人家的体验他就把它当成这个是真实的，所以你说我是真的，没有人会相信。
Unless you really are authentic. 2, it's easier to be authentic if you don't say you're authentic. And 3, if you say you're authentic, you better be authentic. And then for the consumers, for everyone else in the audience, let me simply summarize it by saying increasingly, what will make us happy is spending our time and our money satisfying the desire for authenticity. Thank you.